Hi, it's DJ Steel here, back again with another video. This time about something which is not specifically about Soundswitch, but it is very important to Soundswitch, and that's beat grids. Beat grids is when your DJ software analyzes a particular song and puts markers where each of the beats should be in the song. And Soundswitch and other features of your DJ software make use of that. When you load music into your DJ software will analyze the songs that you load in. And when it analyzes the songs, it will create a beat grid. When it does that, it places markers where each of the beats are within the song. When you look at songs displayed on a computer, there are different ways of computer visually representing the sound. Usually it's done through waveforms. With this song I've got loaded here, you can see pretty clearly that there are louder parts where there is a beat and parts that are not as loud where there are not as a beat. And with the waveform you can see that as bigger parts of the waveform and smaller parts of the waveform. Now your DJ software can normally pretty easily determine where the beats are and put in markers. These two songs I've got loaded, one of them it's pretty easy to see where the beats are, the other one not quite as easy. Likewise, your DJ software, sometimes it can very easily determine where the beats in a song are supposed to be, sometimes it can't. For that reason, sometimes when your DJ software analyzes a song, it doesn't always get the beat grid right. Now, for someone of my generation of DJs who started out in vinyl, mixing by ear, beat grids aren't really going to matter for mixing. But having that visual beat marker on screen, it's more than just a visual cue. It's also important for certain features of your DJ software that modern gear tends to have. Things like looping features, beat jump features, which I find quite handy during the middle of gigs. Also certain audio effects, performance pads, and love it or hate it, the sync button. None of these features work correctly unless the beat grid of your song is correct. Now when the beat grid of your song is not correct, you can fix it up. Previously, I only really bothered fixing up the beat grid for songs that I tended to mix a lot. Songs where I was actually going to be needing loops and effects and so on. I didn't really worry about it with songs like old rock and roll songs, like maybe I'd play a bit of old rock in a gig or something like that. Didn't worry about fixing beat grids for those sort of songs. Now I do though, because it's important for Soundswitch. Most DJ lights have a built-in microphone which allows them to detect the beat of the song that's playing and move the beats in time with that. Similarly, Soundswitch does have a BPM mode which allows your lights to move in time with the sound that's coming into your DJ system. But if you're using BPM mode, you're missing out on some of the best features of Soundswitch. And as you would have seen in previous videos, Soundswitch works best when it's working off the song's beat grid itself, which is necessary if you want to do things like auto scripting for songs. And things like your auto loops also won't really work correctly unless the beat grid of your song actually matches where the beats are in the song. That's why it can be important to fix up beat grids in your songs. Now, all DJ software pretty much does allow you to edit beat grids of songs. I've only got limited experience with Serato and Virtual DJ and Tractor, so I can't really tell you about how to fix up beat grids on those. I do have a lot of experience in using Rekordbox and Engine Prime, so I can comment about those. Now, having said that, with my experience with both Rekordbox and Engine, I find that some of the differences between them is that when you analyze songs in your DJ software, if I load in a bunch of the same tracks in Rekordbox and in Engine, I find that Rekordbox takes as much as 4 times as long to analyze those tracks. It's much slower. On the other hand, I find that Rekordbox tends to do a better job of getting the beat grids right. Engine doesn't get it wrong a huge amount, but gets it wrong a bit more than Rekordbox does. In addition to that, Engine is pretty poor at managing songs where the speed is not constant, like when you're playing those old disco songs that have an actual drummer instead of a drum machine, songs that weren't made on a computer, those old rock songs. Even songs that are deliberately made to change speed during a song, Engine doesn't really handle those very well. Rekordbox is a little bit better at that. On the other hand, when you do need to edit the beat grid of a song, I find that is much easier in Engine. I really don't like doing it in Rekordbox. I find it's a real pain in the neck. But fixing up in Engine, that's what I'm going to show you right now. Here I've got a track loaded up in Engine Desktop. It's a classic rock song by AC/DC, and since it's not made on a computer, not made with a drum machine, has a real drummer, there is a little variation in the tempo of the song throughout the song. So to fix that up, just so that Soundswitch can match the beats properly, I can start by going up here and go to my edit mode. And the first thing I probably want to do is make sure the cue point is right on the beginning of the song. So I can use these buttons to shift the beat grid sideways until I'm happy with the starting position. When I am, I can just try that out to make sure it's good. Now the next thing I'd want to do is make sure that the beat grid lines up with where the beats actually are. Now it's probably not too far off at the moment, but if I start playing it, pretty soon it starts drifting off. Beat there. Each one of the red markers is for every fourth beat. So here it looks like the beat grid is a little faster than what the actual beat should be. So what I can do is I can use these buttons up here to speed it up or slow it down. So I'm just going to say let's slow that down a little bit, because this red marker here, that should be measuring up with where that downbeat is. So I'll make some adjustments until it does measure up a bit more correctly. And I could do that by pressing multiple times. If I knew what the actual BPM should be, then I could also just go up here and manually type it in if I wanted to. But what I want to do is get it reasonably close, because once I've got that measured up or matched up, then what I can do is I can move right onto that exact point, and I can go up here and say add an anchor point. Now if I go back to the start here, I can go back to this little section here, which allows me to use beat jump, a little bit like what you get with the beat jump buttons on Denon Gear. And up here I can choose how many beats I want to skip. But if I skip through that, I can just make sure it is starting where it's meant to be. Now that little intro of the song is a little bit slower than the rest of the song is. So after that point there, we can see that the beats quickly start falling behind where the actual beats are. So I can go back up here again. Now I do have a few options here. One is up the top, I've got a tap button. Now one way, if I'm really not sure visually where the beats are, I could play it, and then while it's playing I can just tap, 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 click on that in time of the beat, and that gets it roughly close. But if it's not too far off, you can usually see that this beat grid or this beat marker is a little slower than where the beat actually is, and this one even more so. So as you get further along, those beats are falling behind. So I'm just going to bring it up a bit, and now that's not too bad. So I'll just go and skip forward a couple of beats again, and I could once again add a beat marker there. Now rather than go back up here to switch to a different spot, I can just press M, which is a shortcut for adding a beat marker. Skip another 8 beats, another beat marker, and if there's a certain spot where there's no need for adjustment, then I won't need to worry about pressing or adding another anchor point. But I can add anchor points as regularly or as spaced out as I want. I normally don't make them too regular. I mean, if you wanted to, you could add a beat marker almost every single beat and define them manually, but I generally don't want to put in too many. Normally I put them for a song where the tempo is changing a reasonable amount, then I might put them every 16th beat or every 8th beat. But from there I can easily just go through the rest of the song if I'm finding that it's consistently needing to be a bit faster than where they are, then I can just adjust the main BPM again and then continue on throughout the rest of the song. And with a bit of practice, it doesn't take long to get the whole way through a song. Now I've quickly gone through and done the rest of the song. Now additional things you can use when you're editing songs like that is you do have these additional options up here for things like shifting the downbeat left or right. Now in Soundswitch itself, it is possible to adjust the beat grid, but if you do it in your DJ software, then for one thing it's probably a little easier, and also you might want to do it for reasons other than Soundswitch, such as mentioned earlier, some of the features of your DJ gear. Now here I've got a Soundswitch auto script for good old Bohemian Rhapsody, and of course that's a song where the speed varies quite a lot, so for this one I just quickly went through and edited the beat grid in Soundswitch, meaning that I can then have my Soundswitch lights so scripted so lights go with the lyrics and so on. Now a song like that is a lot of fun to script, and of course it's not just old rock songs and disco songs that you might need to change a beat grid for. Here you've got a song that was big just a few years ago, and it's a song where the tempo changes quite a bit. So here we have a part of the song where it's 100 beats per minute, continues on at that speed for a little bit before suddenly speeding up. So you do get songs like that that purposely have big changes in speed, and this particular song speed changes quite a bit, but adjusting the beat grid allows Soundswitch to correctly match the tempo of that song when you set up your light shows, or even if you're just using auto loops. Now all recent engine compatible gear, like the newest DJ gear from Denon and Newmark, does allow you to edit the beat grid on the deck itself. I do find it is better doing it on the computer, but sometimes it's handy doing it on the deck. For example, if I load in a song from online, like Tidal, then that might not have a correct beat grid, and if I've got a couple of minutes before I need to actually mix the song, as I often do, I tend to get my songs lined up and mixing fairly quickly, then if I've got a little bit of time to spare, then I might quickly pop into my beat grid edit mode and make a few adjustments before it's time to mix in the song. The way you get into the beat grid edit mode varies depending on the kind of gear you're using. Often there'll be some sort of hardware shortcut which you can use to get into beat grid edit mode. And in the engine software itself, you also have an option that will take you in there. On the Denon gear as well, or on the Prime 4 and Prime 4 Plus, you even have a couple of hardware buttons which are intended to take you into editing beat grid mode. While I'm in this beat grid edit mode, I have similar controls to what I do when I'm on the computer editing a beat grid. So I can increase the BPM, shift the downbeats left and right, insert anchors, and I can use my jog wheel to move the beat grid itself. Or if I use the vinyl mode and press down on the jog wheel, then I can move the actual track. So when you do need to edit the beat grid on the deck, you can do it, but I prefer doing it on the computer beforehand.